Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our Faster Law webinar series. Today, we are doing episode 5, Introducing Faster Snippets. I actually had a quick question here. How do you minimize the screen so you can move it? At the top of your screen, there should be like a little drop down. And if you click on that, I think there's a tab that says More that will have an option to like remove it from full screen so you can move it around to a different screen or whatever you want to do. So hopefully that works for you. If your faster ribbon is on top of it, you can minimize the faster ribbon with the minimize button on the far right side. Then you should be able to get to that option there, and then you can restore the faster ribbon using the the button down here. All right, so I'll go ahead and get started here now. So again, today's episode is episode 5. We're going to be introducing faster snippets. So faster snippets is our newest feature. We just wanted to kind of cover it a little bit today. As always, I am your host, Andrew Suter. I provide direct support for Faster Law, so I'll be able to help you if you have questions with anything or things like that. If you have any questions during the webinar today, go ahead and type them into the chat box at the bottom, and I will be holding questions until the end, but at that point, I will come back and answer any questions that you have while we're going through the topic today, faster snippets. I am going to move kind of quickly. We do have a lot of content to cover with this new feature. So if I lose you, just go ahead and type a question in there. I'm going to try to hold it down to 30 to 45 minutes for the presentation itself, so we do have time for questions at the end. But again, I might be kind of moving quickly through some things. So if I lose you, let me know. But let's go ahead and jump right in. So today, again, is episode 5. We're going to be introducing faster snippets. We're going to cover what is faster snippets. I'll just kind of explain briefly what it does, that sort of thing. Then we're going to cover our general settings, like our interface, different things that we can change to configure it how we want, that sort of stuff. And then we're going to go and actually create some snippets. So we'll do some simple snippets. Then we're going to look at how to populate in Clio information and variables and that sort of thing to kind of customize the snippets. And then we're going to look at how to take that information and work in keyboard commands to automatically fill emails and like PDF forms, things like that. Before I jump into all of this stuff, I will let you know I am running our most recent beta version of Faster Suite. So I'm on version 20.01.14. Some of you, if you are in our beta testing channel, may be on version 20.01.11. And if that's the case, then your interface for faster snippets is going to look a little bit different than mine. We've made some enhancements to the interface to make it easier to use. It's more object-oriented and just really easier to read and work with. So if you see mine and you're like, why doesn't mine look like that? Just go to our website, fasterlaw.com, and click the download button to get our most recent beta to get the interface that I'm going to be working with today. So let's go ahead and jump right in, though. So what is faster snippets? Faster snippets is a really, really cool, we're actually really excited about this. It's a really cool feature. It's basically a text expander, but it's like if a text expander, I guess, had a baby with maybe like a document generation tool. I opened up my notepad here and I'm going to type in !1. And when I do this, you'll see it actually took that text that I typed and expanded it into some other text here. So we can use abbreviations to type in lots of text. We can also do things like automatically fill out emails. Let me see if I have an email one here. Automatically fill out emails with information from Clio, like so. We can fill out forms automatically, all kinds of different things. It's really, really powerful tool, and we're really excited to be able to present it to you today. So I'm going to cover kind of how to do all these things that I just did. I just wanted to kind of briefly explain what it is and how you can use it. So all kinds of different applications for it, but it lets you expand text and pull Clio information, fill in variables, register keyboard commands in any application that you use on your computer. So lots of stuff we can do with it. Let's go ahead and start taking a look at it. So I'm going to move into our general settings here now that I've explained kind of what it does. Now, to get to our settings for faster snippets, I'm going to show you this one slowly here at the beginning. I'm going to be going back to this window quite a few times, so I'll be moving a little bit more quickly when I go back here. But to get to these, we're going to go to Faster Suite on the ribbon up top, and then we're going to click on Settings to get to our global settings. And then on the left-hand side, we're just going to select Text Snippets. So this is where all of our settings are for faster snippets. Again, when I come back here in the future, I'm going to be moving a little bit more quickly, but this is where we're going, text snippets on the left-hand side. Now, these settings here are pretty straightforward. We have enable faster snippets. Obviously, that's just going to turn it on and off. We have use my Clio text snippets with faster snippets. If you have text snippets configured in Clio, faster snippets will allow you to use them in any application. We can turn that on and off with this setting here. So if you don't want to use your Clio text snippets for some reason, you can just turn that off. The next one here is use my custom text snippets with faster snippets. This is, you're going to want to have this one turned on because this is going to let you use the snippets that we configure through faster snippets. The last one here is use advanced text snippets created for me by a developer. If you want some samples, go ahead and turn that on. You can turn it off if you'd like. Either way is fine. But that'll just give you some examples of text snippets, of advanced text snippets that we've created. Now, the last one here is let me know every time I use a faster snippet. We have an option for this because if we turn this on, every time we use a text snippet, it's going to give us a notification, which if you're not using text snippets that often, it's not going to be that bad. It'll just pop up a notification to let you know, hey, faster snippets saved you some time. If you're using them constantly, you're going to get, quite a few pop-ups. If that gets annoying, we recognize that could potentially get annoying if you're using a lot of snippets. You can just turn it off here. I'm going to turn it off just for the sake of our webinar today. But, either way is fine. It's just going to notify you. So that's the settings on this window here. Again, pretty straightforward. But I do also want to cover the interface for editing snippets, which is going to be done in this. If you click this little pencil icon, it'll bring up our snippet editing interface. So this is what it looks like. I've got a bunch of stuff already in here, which is why it looks the way it does. But it's basically broken into 3 panels. So on the left, we've got a list of our snippets. In the middle, we've got our editing interface. And on the right-hand side, we've got a list of fields that we can pull from Clio. So just looking at these from left to right, our list of snippets here basically shows us all the snippets that we've configured. It'll show the abbreviation that we type to activate the snippet and the title of the snippet. So those things I'll cover in just a moment here. But then we can also add things and remove things from here. So in the top left, you see it says new block snippet. If I click on that, it'll just add a new snippet here at the bottom, just basically blank, and I can customize it however I want. If I want to remove a snippet, I just select it in a list and then hit the X button, and that will delete it. Now, we do have different types of snippets. So if you click the little arrow here, that will let you select exactly what type of snippet you are configuring. So block snippet is our default. It is the one that we would recommend using, but you can also create a text snippet. So the difference is this is how a block snippet is going to look. It's going to be, again, object-oriented. We can rearrange things by dragging and dropping. We can do all kinds of stuff with this. A text snippet is going to look like this. It's going to be a little bit more convoluted, kind of harder to read, harder to work with. We would recommend probably not using this, but we do have the option if for some reason this makes more sense to you, go ahead and use it. But block snippets are just going to be way easier. Just use block snippets. We do also have code snippets down here. Code snippets are an advanced feature, and it lets you really customize the exact behavior of the snippet using C#. If you don't know C#, just ignore this and just, again, use block snippets. These are pretty advanced, and there's not a whole lot of additional functionality that you can get from this. I mean, I guess there is, but nothing really super, super important. Block snippets are going to work just fine. So if you don't know C#, just ignore those code snippets. Now, that covers the left-hand side here, creating and deleting snippets and that sort of thing, and the list of them. The editing interface in the middle is the next big portion of this. So I'll just pull up a block snippet here. Up here, we can actually name our snippet. So this one you'll see I have called our very first block snippet. This title here is really only for reference purposes. It's just so you know what this snippet is. It's not going to affect how the snippet works or anything like that. It's just literally just a title for the snippet. The next part here, the abbreviation though, is what we will type to activate the snippet. So if I go into my notepad or an email or a Word doc or something like that, and I type AAA1, it'll activate that snippet. Now, the checkbox here to the right where it says whole word, this is going to configure exactly how that snippet is activated. So by default, it's going to be checked. And if it is checked, then we'll actually have to type a space after the abbreviation in order to activate the snippet. So if we uncheck it, as soon as I type that 1 in this abbreviation here, it will activate the snippet. If you're using like numbers or special characters like slashes in your abbreviations, it's fine to uncheck whole word. You won't have to type the space. But if you're only using like text characters like letters, you'll probably want to turn on whole word just because, so it doesn't mix it up if you're like typing something. The example that comes to mind is ACH. Like ACH would be attend court hearing. I think it's one of Clio's default text snippets. If you have whole word turned off for that, as soon as you type ACH, it'll expand. So if ACH shows up in the middle of a word, like in attached, ATTACHED, when you type that ACH, it will expand it. So if you're only using letters, which we would not recommend, make sure you turn on whole word. But our recommendation would be to use whole word and also use something like numbers or special characters to really differentiate your text abbreviations from any normal text that you're typing. The last setting here in the middle is just this enabled button, and that's just obviously going to turn that snippet on or off. Now, there are a couple things I'll cover in the middle here at this point as well. You'll see these lines on the left. When we add blocks to these, which I'll cover a little bit later here, we can actually rearrange them by dragging these blocks. And that will just let you rearrange different portions of the snippet however you want. You can also click on a text snippet here to temporarily deactivate it. So if you don't like that it's doing something, but you want to be able to maybe bring it back in the future, just click on it and you'll see that it gets a little bit dim there. That means it's deactivated. Clicking on it again will reactivate it, so you can bring it back in the future if you're not sure if you want to actually delete it or not. However, if you are sure that you want to completely delete a section of the snippet, you can click the red icon over here to delete that portion of it, and that'll actually just permanently delete that full section of that snippet. So click on it to deactivate, click the red icon over here to delete. And that brings us to the far right panel. This is our list of fields that we can pull from Clio. So this will have a list of all Clio's default fields. All of your custom fields will show up in here. Tons of things that we can pull in from Clio. And the way we work with this is at the top, there's a search box. So like if I wanted to put in a client's name into a snippet, I just type client name and then find the corresponding field that I want. So we can filter using the box up top. And then once we find the field we want to use, we can either double click it to copy it to our clipboard, or click the copy icon over here on the right-hand side to copy it to our icon. And then we can then paste it into our snippet over there, which again, I'll cover that when we actually get to creating snippets. So that really covers the interface here. Fairly straightforward once you get used to it. Again, just broken up into the 3 panels, and like 99% of our time is going to be spent right here in the middle, or possibly a little bit of time here on the right-hand side finding fields from Clio. So let's go back to our outline here. That covers our settings and our interface. Now let's learn how to actually create some snippets. The first thing we're going to do is create a simple snippet. So basically just expanding an abbreviation into some text. Nothing fancy, just like that first one I did where I typed !1. So in our snippets window, obviously we're going to create a new snippet by clicking new block snippet. So we'll just click that button there, and you'll see that it created a new snippet here with just our defaults here, new snippet, and the abbreviation is TTT12345. The first thing we're going to do is just configure the name and the abbreviation. So we'll just call this, I'll call it simple snippet. And for the abbreviation, let's just call it, I'll type snip1 in order to activate this. I'm going to leave whole word checked so that I do have to type a space to activate this snippet. So when we add a block snippet, you'll see that it automatically puts a block here. It says type the following text. So we don't actually have to add anything yet. We can just type in the text here that we want to populate. So here is my simple snippet. And basically that's all we do. We're just going to hit save here. And also make sure you hit save on the settings window as well. Otherwise it won't actually save your snippet. You have to do save on both of those. So like save on that other window, saves it into that interface, and then save on the settings window saves the interface itself. So now that we've done that, I will go into my notepad or any application that we want to use, and I'll type snip1. And remember I had whole word checked. So when I hit the space after that, that's when it expands into the simple snippet. So this is really useful for if you want to generate just like a sentence or even a paragraph that doesn't pull any really specific information from, other places like Clio or variables, things like that we'll cover in a little bit. I saw a person the other day use it to expand BC into because. That way they could just go through, and if they're typing emails, they could just type BC and then it expands it out into the full word. So shortcuts like that are perfect for simple snippets like this. But using faster snippets, we can do a whole lot more. So let's move into our next one here, which is populate Clio information, and we'll also cover how to use variables here as well. So simple snippets are great. Let's do some more. We're going to go back into our text snippet settings, and I'm going to reopen that editor here. And let's just use our simple snippet that we created here. So I'll select it on the left, and we've got it here. Now I want to populate in some Clio information. So maybe I want this sentence to instead say information regarding your matter, and then populate in the matter description. I just type in the text that I want it to show, but then I'm going to have to use a token from the right side to actually populate the information from Clio. So in my text search, I'm going to just say matter description, since that's what I want to grab. And we'll see that we have just one that's called matter description. So I'll double click that if you remember, and that'll copy it to my clipboard. Then I'll come over here to the text field and just paste it in there. So you'll see it paste it just as a token. That's exactly what we want. So I hit save and close on the settings window. Now when I go into my notepad, or again, any application on your computer, and I do snip1, when I hit space, we're going to see this window pop up. And this window is what allows us to select the matter that we're actually using this snippet for. So this is how we tell it basically what matter we're pulling that information from. In this case, I'm just going to use Aaron Aronson here, his arson of 4 sheds matter for all of my examples today. So you'll see that when I select different matters here, though, it's changing what it's actually going to populate in there. So it'll give you a preview at the top of what it's going to say, so you can make sure that it's going to populate in the information that you want. So I'm using Aaron Aronson, and it's just populating in arson of 4 sheds. So when I hit OK, it will actually run that snippet and put that information in there. If you're only putting one snippet in here, like arson of 4 sheds, it could sometimes be easier to just type that information in. However, using faster snippets, we can use any number of fields from Clio. So we could have matter description, client first name, opposing counsel, et cetera, and we just select the matter one time, and it'll go through and fill in all of those tokens all at that same time. So if you're using just one, whether you use a snippet, it's up to you. It may or may not be useful to do that. But if you're using a lot of fields from Clio, it's definitely going to save you some time. So that's how we do a information from Clio. If we wanted to expand on this and use a variable, like maybe there's information that we don't have stored in Clio that we would like to put in here, we can actually create variables here that it'll prompt us to fill in. So we can say information regarding your matter description. The opposing party has retained, and I want to put opposing counsel here, the opposing counsel as their counsel. So you'll see that I typed these curly brackets in here. And if you can't see that, if it's too small, these are not parentheses. They're those actual like curly brackets that have the point on the side. So that's how we create variables and how we use tokens. You'll see the matter description field also has the curly brackets. Now to create variables though, we just have our curly brackets there, left and right. And in the middle, what we're going to do is just type anything we want. And we're going to type basically the name of the field. So I'm just going to type in opposing counsel. Now, since this is not a Clio token, you'll see I used a space instead of an underscore. Whatever we type in here becomes the name of this field, and it'll prompt us to fill it in. So I type that in there. I go ahead and save on both screens again. And let's go back to our matter selection screen by going into our notepad, typing snip1, and activating it. So again, that brings up our insert snippet screen here. So now I can select the matter on the left, and we'll see it is filling in arson of 4 sheds there. But then over here, we have opposing counsel, not filled in. Now we have this panel on the right-hand side. This is where all of our variables will show up. So opposing counsel, we're just going to type in, the opposing counsel's name, John Smith. So when we populate this in, it's going to say information regarding your matter, arson of 4 sheds. The opposing party has retained John Smith as their counsel. This information we may or may not have in Clio. This is how we create a variable and fill that in. If I hit OK, boom, there we go. All that information shows up just like it did in that last screen. So a couple of things to note with variables, or I guess just really one thing that I want to cover. If we reuse this variable in the same snippet, we will only have to fill it out once. So if we have opposing counsel, 9 times in this document that we're creating, if we have that all just as one snippet, we just type in John Smith once, and it'll replace it in all of those locations. So really handy for for just not having to retype stuff. But yeah, pretty simple stuff so far. Just typing in what you want and using those fields from Clio or those custom variables. Now, let's take a look at how to really use this in our day-to-day practice. So the next thing we're going to do is create an email template. We're going to see how this automatically fills out emails. Now, to do this, we have to figure out exactly what we do when we make an email. So I'm going to pretend I'm emailing Aaron Aronson, and I'm just going to type his email address in here, which is aaron.aronson@fakeemail.com. So now that I've typed his email address in here, to get to the subject field with my keyboard, I have to tab down to that field. So I tab once, that selects the email address. I tab a second time, that goes to CC. And I tab a third time, and now I'm in my subject field. And I can type whatever in there. Once I'm done with my subject field, I hit tab again, and I get into our body of the email here. So basically, I have to tell Faster Snippets that I want to type that stuff, register those keyboard commands, in the order that we're actually doing those things. So email address, tab 3 times, subject, tab again, body. That's exactly what we're going to tell Faster Snippets to do. So let's go back to our settings here. We'll go to text snippets again and bring up our editor. And I'm going to create a new block snippet here. This one I'm just going to call email template 1. And I'll use ET1 as the abbreviation. I don't think I have that one here anywhere else. Yep, so ET1 will be my abbreviation. I'm going to leave whole word checked. And we're going to go ahead and build out our email. So if you remember, the first thing we do is put in their email address. We have this information in Clio. So I'm just going to type in like client email on the right-hand side, and we'll find the one that we want. There are a ton of email fields in Clio. Just from doing this a couple times, I am aware that the one that I want is matter client primary email address. So that's the one that just pulls the client's main email address, and that's the one that I want to put in here. We also have a bunch of other like client email addresses, other client email address, work. If you want to use a specific email, you can. I'm just going to use matter client primary email address. So I double click it like we did before, and I'm just going to paste it into the text field that it automatically put there for me. So now we've done that. And if we type tab here, it's just going to type tabs. That's not what we want. So we actually want to register for this to give us a keyboard command. To do that, we're going to add some new blocks. We do this from this menu here. So we'll have keyboard, clipboard, and advanced. Most of the stuff we can do from keyboard. So we'll just click on keyboard, and you'll see we have some options here. We have the option to type text. That is the, this type of block here. We can press keys, which is the one that we're actually going to use, but we can also hold and release keys or chord keys. Chord keys is kind of unusual. What it does is it will press and hold a sequence of keys in the order you enter them and then release them in reverse order. So if you ever have a reason to do that, you can use chord keys. Otherwise, most of the time, we'll just be using hold keys down and release keys or just pressing keys. So in order to tab 3 times, I'm going to use press keys. You'll see that adds another block. And again, if you want to, you can always reorganize these. But in this case, we're going to be adding them in the order that we want, so we don't need to. Now, in the press and release the following keys interface here, all we do is just type the name of the key. So I'm just going to type tab, and you'll see it drops down here. I want to use tab. I want to hit tab 3 times, so I'm just going to do that 3 times. So you'll see tab, tab, tab. Now we know we're probably in our subject field. We might have to tweak this after we test it out, but tab 3 times from what we looked at when we first did that email is what we want for to get to that subject line. Now, at this point, I will also mention we can put comments in here. So if you want to leave comments either for yourself while you're building it or for the person that's actually using the snippet, under advanced, we do have insert comment. So I'm going to leave myself a comment here and say, at this point, we're entering the subject of the email. That'll just remind me if I ever need to come back and edit this, where I need to go to get to that. I'm also going to deactivate this by clicking on it because I don't want this comment to actually show to people that are using the snippet. You can also use snippets like a comment, like command, or not like commands, but like instructions, like enter the subject here. If you wanted to leave notes for someone that is using the snippet, you certainly can. But in this case, I'm just leaving a comment for myself while I'm building it. At this point, we're entering the subject of the email. That tells me we're doing the subject. So now that I have that comment in there, I'm going to go back up to keyboard and do type text. And we're actually going to type in the subject. So we'll say it's important information regarding your matter, and I'll do dash matter description. So as we saw before, we can just type in matter description and double click over here and paste into that field. So that'll populate that information into the subject line. Now we want to get to the body. So we're going to tab again. We're going to go to keyboard, press keys. We'll do tab, and then we're going to add another type text. And here's the body of our email. We'll just say hi, and let's use the client's first name. We'll do client first name on the right-hand side. We'll copy that field, put that in there. So that should say, hi, Aaron. And then we want to double enter. So we can actually do this a couple ways. You can see I just hit enter a couple times and it went down to a new line. We can do that. That's the way I'm going to do it here. But we could also use our keyboard, press keys, and do enter, and then just say, I want to enter twice. So that would be the other way to do this. This way is a little bit easier, but depending on your situation, you might use one way or the other. Like if you're going through a spreadsheet, go ahead and use like the type keys enter to move down to the next cell. But if you're just like typing text like this in paragraph format, you can just go ahead and hit enter in the type the following text field here. So I just wanted to let you know that the opposing party has retained, and we'll use that opposing counsel custom variable here again, has retained opposing counsel as their counsel in your case. Thanks, Andrew. So we'll see now we have a couple of Clio fields. We've got a variable, like we learned all that stuff, and we've got keyboard commands to tab through into those separate fields. So this snippet should be done. I'll just go ahead and hit save. And I'm going to go to our settings. Remember, we have to hit save as well here. And let's go ahead and do a new email. I'm going to close out of this one and pull up a new one. There we go. So if you remember, my abbreviation is ET1. I'll hit space. Just like before, we get this same window here, and it's going to show us what it's going to type in there. So actually, now that I'm looking at this, since this snippet is going to be configurable, I don't want it to always put my name in there. So I'm actually going to go back and edit this really quick. So sorry, bear with me for just 1 second. What I'm going to do is in our edit snippet interface, in our email template, I'm going to take out Andrew and just replace this with username. So we can type in user, and I think user first name is a field here. So we can actually configure this for other people to use that snippet. That'll be better. So now that I've made that change, I'm going to hit save on our windows here. And let's go back to our email to actually run the snippet. So I'm going to delete this out and reactivate that snippet, ET1 space. We'll see now, it's still using Andrew because that's my name. But if someone else were to do this, it would use their name. So we'll see it's going to fill out their email, tab, 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 type in the subject, tab, type this into the body. We have Aaron Aronson selected here, and we want to type in the opposing counsel's name, John Smith, and I'll hit OK. And we're just going to see it fill out this email completely. So that's how we would generate an email. We can really put any information into the body that we want. If it's like an email that we send a lot, it's mostly the same information except for matter-specific information. We can just create a template for it in Faster Snippets and really easily just generate that email automatically. So super powerful for filling out emails and filling out forms, which is the next thing that we're going to look at. So we're going to take a lot of this information and just apply it to this next part, which is automatically filling forms. The reason I want to cover this is there's one thing that is slightly different. So I'm going to cover this kind of briefly. It's mostly all the same stuff as filling emails, but there's really just one function that I want to point out. Now, I have this, it's a USCIF form here that I've downloaded. It's I-129F, I think is the, I-129F is the actual form. So it's got all these fields. The first field that we would type in is alien registration number. Then we have USCIS online account number, social security number, et cetera, et cetera. We can actually, using keyboard commands, have it pull information from Clio, type it into the field, tab down to the next field, fill in this information, tab down to the next field, et cetera. We'll have to create a snippet specifically for this form because it's going to be hitting those keys in a specific order and entering information in a specific order. But you can basically create a snippet for each form that you use and really just fill them out automatically. So If we take a look here, we're going to type in the A number. We're going to hit tab to go to the account number, hit tab to go to social security number. So that's what we're going to do in our faster snippets window. Again, we just wanted to take a look at that beforehand to make sure we know exactly how we're going to configure it when we actually set this up. So let's create a new block snippet. And this one I'm going to call I-129F. So that's just our title. And then under abbreviation, I'm actually just going to do 129. The reason for this is in the form itself, it will only let us type numbers in this field. So if I try to type F, it's going to say enter numbers only. Pay attention to stuff like that because we actually wouldn't be able to type in like 129F or something like that into this field to activate the snippet. We will only be able to use numbers. So that's why I did 129 here. So what we're going to do is use the alien registration number first. I actually am not sure if we have this field in Clio. Attorney case number. All right, let me take a look and see if I have it here really quick. I'm not sure if we do. Sorry, I should have created this first. I don't see it here. Hopefully by now you've got a handle on how we actually populate that Clio information in. So what I'm going to do is just enter numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So what we would actually do is use the field from Clio, but in this case, I'm just going to type in this specific number. So don't follow that part if you're following along. Use the Clio information, which you probably have in a custom field. But for the purposes of our example here, this will work just fine. Now that we've typed the following text, we're going to put in tab. Again, press keys and tab. And actually, Tony just sent me a message. It's a good point. We can just use a variable. So I'll just use a number as the variable here. So again, I create that just using those curly brackets. Then I'll just type that number in when it comes up. But if you have a custom field in Clio, it'll show up here. So I apologize, I should have set that up. Again, we're just going to tab down to the next field, which if we go back here was USCS online account number. I think that's a 12-digit number. I'm going to type text and we'll just use another field here, online account number. And we'll just type a 12-digit number in there since we probably don't have that one either. Now, when we do this, if we do it like this, which I'll show you, it's actually not going to really work that well. And that's why I wanted to show this. So if I go in here and just have it set up like we had our email set up, I type 129 and I hit space. We can type our stuff in here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, ABC 1, 2, 3, ABC 1, 2, 3. When I hit OK, it's going to do some weird stuff here. You'll see it typed that in, and it didn't make it to the next field. So essentially what's happening here is Faster Snippets is trying to enter this information faster than Adobe Acrobat can keep up on my computer. So it types in that information, hits tab, tries to type the other stuff, but since the keystrokes are so close together, it doesn't recognize that tab. It tried to enter it at the end of this field here. Not what we want. So we'll go back to our editor. And we're going to have to configure this to actually, oh, and actually that might be why. Sorry, 1 second here. Let's see if we can make this work different. Sorry, it looks like my tab command didn't register in that space there. 1, 2, 3, well, whatever those numbers are. ABC 1, 2, 3, ABC 1, 2, 3. Okay. And yep, still didn't work even though I put the tab command in there that time. Now, when we customize this, we can actually add weights. So under advanced, we have this wait timer here. So if it's not recognizing the keystrokes because they're too close together, add a wait timer. We just add it to the bottom. I'm going to drag it up to before we hit tab, which you can see that little blue line there is where we want to place it. I'm going to also add wait after the tab key. So basically it's going to wait before and after the tab key, and we can configure the amount of time. By default, it's going to add a 1 second wait. But if we click the clock icon over here, we can actually go by milliseconds. What I found is 0.2 seconds or 200 milliseconds is enough on my computer for it to recognize that it needs to go to the next step. So I'm going to do 200 milliseconds. That could be different on your computer. And we'll see it just does it as 0 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds, 0.2. So I'll do that for both of these here. And I'm going to hit save and then save and close. Now let's go back to our PDF and double check to make sure it works here. So we'll go to our first field here. I'll type in 129 and hit space. I'll enter the A number that I want. Again, you could have it automatically pull this if you have a custom field. ABC123, ABC123 for the online account number. And we'll see that it's going to wait here. It says 1 second because it's rounding, but it would actually be 0.2 seconds. We've got the matter selected. If we were using fields from Clio, I'll hit OK. and we'll see it type that field in, wait, tab down, wait, type that field in then as well. So using that process, you can just completely go through the entire form and have it, fill everything out and make selections. Now, keep in mind that you will be making these selections with commands from your keyboard. So for things like checkboxes, you'll have to hit spacebar to select them. Or things like dropdowns, like this one over here, we can, type in a state. You'll have to basically figure out exactly what happens when you type it. So I typed in NE, but it defaulted to NC. If I hit N a couple more times, it'll filter through. So I could either hit N 3 times, or I could, hit N 1 time and then use the arrow keys, however many times to select the right one. So just keep in mind that all of these things we're going to have to do with our keyboard, but just about everything in a form you should be able to do with your keyboard. Like I said, like spacebar and things like that will do boxes, and you can do drop downs with the arrow keys. So that's how you'd fill out a form. I'm not going to take the time to actually fill out the rest of this form because I do want to allow time for questions. But again, most of the same stuff as our emails, but that wait time included. So we've built out a couple of things. The simple text snippet, we showed how to cover Clio information and variables, and then we filled out a couple of things automatically. So those are really some of the, examples that we were able to come up with for how we would use this. But again, this tool is extremely powerful, and we can do tons of different things with it. Anything you would use your keyboard for, you can do with this. For example, you don't even need to be in a field where you can type. What it's doing is actually watching your keyboard. So even if you're not typing anything into an application, if I were to type 129 here and hit space, it actually activated that snippet just from my desktop. And we can have it register commands. So I could have it like select an icon on my desktop, copy it, move it somewhere, or select an application for my Windows button. Really anything that you want to do with your keyboard, you can have faster snippets do. So, with that covers really everything that I wanted to cover here today, though. So I'm going to go ahead and move on into questions and see what questions we have. Give me just one moment here. Let's see here. Okay, so the first question I have here is, can you create firm-wide templates? The answer is yes, you can. So it's actually under our firm-wide settings, which has just recently changed to group policies. So if you saw our release notes, you've seen that this is a little bit different. But this, when you set up your text snippets, basically all of your text snippets get saved as a library on your computer. We can take that library and load it out to be firm-wide by going into our firm-wide settings. The name of the setting is, I think it's under text snippets, library custom values. So if we make this one firm-wide, it'll load out all the text snippets that you set up to everyone else at your firm, or the group that you're configuring this setting for if you're using group settings. Or if you want to load it to other computers that you use, you can use this box. But that is the setting that that'll load it out for other people. So yes, we can load it out for your firm. Let's see here. Hugely powerful. Thanks for the feedback. We are really, really excited about this tool. As Tony mentioned, he put a lot of effort into building it. We think it's going to save people a ton of time. So if you think of anything we can do to make it better, let us know. But let's see here. Another question is, can we tie this in with Zapier function? I guess I'm not sure exactly what you mean with that. Like, we would be able to use snippets in any application. But I guess I'm not sure exactly what you're wanting to do with Zapier. That might be something to connect directly about, Michael. If you just go ahead and book a time on my calendar, I think you already have the link, but I'll get you the link here at the end of the call as well. We can take a look at what you want to do with Zapier and how we would be able to use faster snippets to work with that. Let's see here. We could essentially turn any pre-existing document into a merged document for any matter. Yep, that is correct. Pretty much anything we do with our keyboard, we can do here. This can be used with any application. It can be, like I just showed here, it doesn't even have to be an application. Anywhere that you use your keyboard, you can have it type stuff and register commands. So anywhere on your computer, even not even any application. Foxit Phantom PDF should work the same way as long as you can tab through the fields and hit space to select things or type into those fields once you've moved to them. So any PDF editor, as long as you can do that stuff. Any Word document editor, as long as you can type into it, pretty much anywhere. Question here, will this webinar be available on demand after we've concluded? Yes, it will. All of our webinars, we actually upload to our webinar archive on our help site, which I'll get you the link here at the end here, at the end of the webinar rather. So you can check out our previous webinars or view this one in the future. And looks like Tony did answer that question. Yes, it will be available. Can we use this with Clio tasks, communications, etc.? So yes, we can. Clio actually, already had their own text snippets, but this will allow you to use the expanded functionality of pulling Clio information, that sort of thing, in Clio itself as well. So if I sign in here, which sorry, I wasn't already signed in. If we go, let's just go to Aaron Aronson and create a new note or something like that. I'll go to communications and create a new email log. We can, use the same text snippets. You would probably want to configure separate ones because it's not the same format as an email. But just to, show you here, I'll use email 1 and select that matter. And it does, tab through the fields and do everything. But again, you would want to configure specific snippets for use in Clio itself, just because the format and the organization is going to be different than other places that you use it. But if you're using like simple snippets or just like one line that pulls Clio information, you don't need to do a different one, and it will pull that information and enter it into these things. So the short answer is yes, you can use that. Let's see here. Okay, so I think that covers all of our questions currently. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to email them over to us. We have a couple of other things that I'll cover here at the end here. So number one is if you want to install a trial of Faster Suite, or you want to upgrade to the beta that I was running in this version, just go to our website, fasterlaw.com/download, and that will download it. And actually, we do have another question that popped up here. Can you create a snippet doing stuff in one app, then use it to Alt-Tab to switch to another? You sure can. Yep, you'll just use that hold keys function that we saw in there and tell it to hold down Alt, then hit Tab, and then tell it to release the Alt key. Now, keep in mind when you're doing stuff with that, Alt-Tab will filter through your windows like in the order that you last had them open. So if you want to do something like that, make sure you would like open the window that you want it to Alt-Tab to before going to the window where you want to use the snippet. So it'll just Alt-Tab to that window. Otherwise, it might go to a different window that you don't want. But just to point that out, again, it'll flip through them in the order they've been opened recently. Let's see here. It looks like Tony is taking a look at something we could possibly build to do that. But I'll just go ahead and continue here. So that webinar archive that you were asking about, this is the URL for it. So help.fasterlaw.com. You can actually just click on help.fasterlaw.com or go there. And when you do that, it's just on the like kind of the right-hand side. It'll be our full webinar archive. So, actually on this small screen, it's down here, full webinar archive. That'll show all of our webinars. By probably tomorrow, this will be uploaded, or a little bit later today, it'll be uploaded, but check back tomorrow and it'll be there. But this is the link if you want the full URL, fasterlaw.com/all that stuff. Now, the next part, if you like Faster Suite, definitely tell your friends. If you know someone at a different firm that uses Clio but not Faster Suite, let them know Faster Suite uses, or saves you a lot of time, makes things a lot easier. Or if you like this webinar series and you know other people that use Faster Suite that aren't attending, spread the word. We would love to get more viewers on this type of thing. We're just trying to share as much information as we possibly can to turn every Faster Suite user into a super user. So definitely spread the word if you like these webinars. Also, if you do have a friend or something like that at a different firm that uses Clio but not Faster Suite, we actually have a promotion going on for new clients as well. So also, if you are currently evaluating Faster Suite and you haven't purchased yet, if you purchase by the end of January, we'll actually give you 20% off. Now, again, this is for new clients only. So if you don't currently have a license for Faster Suite, you can get that discount. But you do have to, again, purchase by the end of January. If you're interested in that promotion, go ahead and shoot me an email. That email address, again, is at the bottom here under Contact Us, help@fasterlaw.com. So anytime today where I've said, let us know or let me know, help@fasterlaw.com would be the way to get a hold of us. You can email us there for if you have an idea for something we could do on a webinar in the future, if you have questions about Faster Snippets that you didn't get worked in here. Anything you want, email us at help@fasterlaw.com and we'll get back to you there. Really quickly, I'm just going to go back through our chat. It looks like we have some stuff going on there. And it looks like we're just looking at ways to switch between applications. So no other questions there. So let's take a look at what we've got coming up. Right now, we only have 3 more webinars planned. We'll be adding more after that. We will be doing them every week, unless there's like a holiday or something like that. Next week, we're going to do advanced faster mail training. So, all the advanced settings in faster mail to to really get it customized and working the way you want it. The week after that, we're going to take a look at our document migration feature to import documents to Clio. Really helpful interface to move documents into Clio. We'll be covering that in depth on the 29th. And then on February 5th, we're going to take a look at automating your drafting process, basically the entire pipeline from start to finish. So those are the ones that we currently have scheduled. Check back next week for any that we have added after that. We'll be adding some more to February, week after week. It'll be occurring on Wednesdays. But with that, I am going to go ahead and leave you guys here. I'm going to end the meeting. So Tony and Wendy, if you guys wanted to get connected, Wendy, just send us an email at help@fasterlaw.com, or Tony, you can always, obviously reach out to Wendy if you want to talk to her more about that. But I will go ahead and wrap up. Thanks everyone for attending. This again today was episode 5. We were introducing faster snippets. I hope you found it helpful, and let us know if you have any questions. Thanks guys. Bye.